Picture this. The year is 1975, and breakfast tables across America are about to change forever. The smell of hamburger hash sizzling in cast iron pans, the crunch of grape-flavored cereal turning milk purple, and the sweet aroma of honey buns warming in the oven. These weren't just meals. They were moments that defined a generation. But somewhere between then and now, these beloved breakfast classics vanished from our tables, forgotten like yesterday's newspaper. Today we're bringing back 20 breakfast treasures that time forgot. Hamburger hash. You could smell it from 3 houses down, that unmistakable aroma of ground beef browning in a heavy skillet, mingling with the earthy sweetness of onions and the starchy comfort of potatoes.
Hamburger hash. I mean, we ate it. You can't even buy it anymore.
Hamburger hash was the sound of Saturday mornings in 1970s America, when families gathered around tables that actually mattered, and breakfast meant something more than grabbing a granola bar on your way out the door. This robust morning feast had roots that ran deep into American resourcefulness. The name itself came from the French word hacher, meaning to chop, pointing to its historical purpose as a way to transform leftover ingredients into something spectacular. Hash houses had been feeding America since the 18th century, but by the 1970s, hamburger hash had evolved into the ultimate family breakfast, hearty, honest, and built to fuel whatever the day might throw at you. The magic happened in the marriage of simple ingredients. 1 pound of lean ground beef formed the protein foundation, while a large chopped onion provided aromatic depth that would fill every corner of the kitchen. A pound of potatoes, cut into small chunks, added the satisfying starch that made this dish stick to your ribs. Beef bouillon brought everything together with savory richness that made each bite more compelling than the last. Some families got creative, tossing in diced carrots, celery, or a splash of Worcestershire sauce, but the holy trinity of beef, potatoes, and onions remained sacred. Creating this breakfast masterpiece started with heating a large saucepan over medium-high heat. The ground beef and chopped onion went in first, cooking and stirring for 5 to 7 minutes until the beef achieved that perfect brown crust that locked in all the flavors. After draining the excess fat, the browned mixture returned to the pan alongside the potato chunks and beef bouillon. Just enough water to barely cover the potatoes created the perfect cooking environment. The real magic happened during the slow simmer. Cover the saucepan, reduce the heat to low, and let patience work its quiet miracle for approximately 30 minutes. The potatoes would gradually surrender their starch, creating a natural thickening that bound everything together while absorbing every drop of savory liquid. For those who preferred a drier texture, removing the lid partway through allowed excess moisture to escape, creating those coveted crispy edges. The final presentation was pure comfort food poetry. Hamburger hash arrived at the table garnished with fresh herbs, often accompanied by fried or poached eggs that added creamy richness to each forkful. Ketchup bottles stood ready for those who needed that sweet, tangy finish, but convenience killed the hamburger hash star. As the mid-1970s ushered in the golden age of fast food breakfast, even a relatively simple dish like hash couldn't compete with grab-and-go alternatives that required zero preparation and no cleanup. McDonald's breakfast menu launched, offering unprecedented speed that made 30 minutes of simmering feel like an eternity. The escalating definition of convenience meant that even resourceful family meals gradually disappeared from daily routines, relegated to weekend nostalgia that eventually faded into memory. Corned beef hash. The sizzle was unmistakable, that sharp, crackling sound of leftover corned beef hitting hot butter in a cast iron skillet, filling the kitchen with an aroma that could wake the dead and summon neighbors from 3 blocks away.
We're making a corned beef hash. Super simple.
Corned beef hash wasn't just breakfast. It was resurrection, transforming yesterday's dinner into today's golden treasure. This was the kind of cooking that made something spectacular from scraps, proving that the best meals often came from the humblest beginnings. Born in the kitchens of New England, corned beef hash emerged from pure necessity and brilliant resourcefulness. The dish originated as an ingenious way to repurpose leftovers from traditional boiled dinners, those hearty affairs featuring beef, cabbage, potatoes, and onions that defined Sunday tables. The French verb hacher, meaning to chop, gave this creation its name, but American ingenuity gave it soul. Post-World War II families embraced hash as the ultimate high-protein, cost-effective meal, especially when canned versions became lifelines during food rationing. The foundation started with cooked corned beef, typically diced into bite-sized pieces, paired with cooked potatoes that brought substance and comfort. Waxy varieties like Yukon Gold worked best, holding their shape while contributing creamy texture. Diced onions provided aromatic depth that elevated every bite, while butter, salt, and freshly ground black pepper formed the seasoning trinity. Some families added garlic, fresh parsley, or red bell peppers for color and sweetness, but the core remained sacred. Creating perfect corned beef hash began with preparation. Dice leftover cooked corned beef into 1 to 2 cup portions, then prepare cooked potatoes into 2 to 3 cup portions. If starting with raw potatoes, boil diced russets until just tender, never mushy. Dice 1 medium onion for aromatic foundation. The magic happened in a large, heavy skillet, preferably cast iron. Melt 2 to 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter over medium heat, then add diced onions, cooking until translucent. If using bell peppers, continue cooking until tender, about 8 minutes total. Add the chopped corned beef and potatoes, stirring to combine everything evenly. Here's where patience paid dividends. Spread the mixture across the skillet and increase heat to high or medium high. Press down with a metal spatula, allowing the hash to brown and develop that coveted crispy crust without constant stirring. This browning process took 10 to 15 minutes for potatoes to achieve fork tenderness, or 15 to 20 minutes for the complete mixture. Use the spatula to flip sections, creating beautiful golden patches on both sides. Final touches elevated the dish from good to unforgettable. Remove from heat and stir in fresh chopped parsley if available. Season generously with freshly ground black pepper and salt to taste. Serve immediately, often crowned with fried or poached eggs that added creamy richness to every bite. Rye toast or Irish soda bread provided the perfect accompaniment. Despite its resourceful origins, corned beef hash fell victim to convenience culture. As pre-packaged breakfast options proliferated and fast food breakfast menus expanded, even this relatively simple dish couldn't compete with alternatives requiring zero preparation time. The cultural association with specific holidays like St. Patrick's Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas inadvertently confined hash to special occasions, limiting its perception as everyday breakfast fare. Deileled eggs, breakfast style. The sulfurous aroma of hard-boiled eggs filled the kitchen as shells cracked and peeled away, revealing those perfect white ovals that would soon become creamy, tangy, breakfast perfection. Deiled eggs weren't just party appetizers in the 1970s.
Good deviled egg just as much as the next guy or gal. The one major...
They were legitimate breakfast fare, sitting proudly alongside bacon and toast as a high-protein morning meal that cost practically nothing to make. At 52 cents for a dozen eggs in 1972, this was luxury you could afford 7 days a week. This breakfast tradition traced its roots all the way back to ancient Rome, where seasoned boiled eggs graced the tables of the elite as sophisticated appetizers. By the 15th century, stuffed egg preparations had spread across Europe, with medieval cookbooks detailing fillings that included raisins, cheese, and various herbs. The term deviled, meaning highly seasoned or spicy, first appeared in British writing in 1786. When Fanny Farmer's influential 1896 cookbook popularized mayonnaise in the filling, American breakfast tables embraced these creamy delights as economical morning protein that could be prepared the night before. The beauty lay in simplicity. Hard-boiled eggs formed the foundation, typically requiring 6 to 12 eggs, depending on family size. Mayonnaise, specifically real mayonnaise, not Miracle Whip, provided the creamy base, while yellow mustard added tangy bite. White vinegar or white wine vinegar brought acidic brightness, and salt and black pepper seasoned everything to perfection. Paprika dusted the tops like edible confetti. Some families got adventurous with Dijon mustard, sweet pickle relish, hot sauce, or Worcestershire sauce, while others added minced chives, celery, radishes, or bacon bits for textural interest. The process began with perfect hard-boiled eggs. Place eggs in a saucepan, cover with cold water about 2 centimeters above the eggs, then bring to a rolling boil over high heat with the lid on. The moment water reached full boil, turn off heat, cover the pan, and let eggs sit for 10 to 12 minutes for firm, yellow yolks. Immediately, transfer cooked eggs to ice water for at least 15 minutes, stopping the cooking process and making peeling effortless under cold running water. Slice peeled eggs lengthwise in half, gently removing yolks to a separate bowl, while arranging empty whites on a serving platter. The filling came together through thorough mashing. Fork mash yolks until completely smooth and creamy, ensuring no chunks remained. Add mayonnaise, yellow mustard, white vinegar, salt, and black pepper, mixing until fully combined. Taste and adjust seasonings as needed. Optional additions like sweet pickle relish, hot sauce, or finely grated onion could be incorporated at this stage. Spoon the yolk mixture back into hollowed-out egg whites, heaping lightly for generous portions. For elegant presentation, pipe the mixture using a pastry bag with star tip, or simply snip the corner of a food storage bag. Lightly sprinkle filled eggs with paprika, adding chives if desired. Serve immediately or cover and refrigerate up to 24 hours. Despite their economical appeal and advanced preparation convenience, deviled eggs gradually disappeared from breakfast tables as morning meals shifted toward convenience foods like cereal and toaster pastries. The labor-intensive nature became less appealing as breakfast trends gravitated toward speed and simplicity, eventually relegating these protein-packed delights to special occasions and appetizer status rather than daily breakfast features. Morton Honey Buns. The sweet aroma of honey and cinnamon filled every corner of the kitchen as those golden brown pastries emerged from the oven, their glazed surfaces glistening like edible jewels.
Old-fashioned honey bun. Who doesn't love a honey bun? That takes...
Morton Honey Buns weren't just frozen pastries. They were morning magic in a box, transforming ordinary weekday breakfasts into something that felt like a warm hug from Grandma's kitchen. In an era when convenience was becoming king, these frozen treasures delivered fresh, light, fragrant honey buns drenched with the warm goodness of pure honey, with just a few minutes in the oven. Morton Frozen Foods carved out their breakfast empire starting in 1940, when Harold Morton launched a company that would define convenience cooking for generations. Initially gaining popularity in the 1950s and 1960s with pot pies and dinners, Morton pivoted to desserts in the 1970s, making honey buns their crown jewel. These weren't just pastries, they were symbols of American ingenuity, proving that home-style comfort could come from the freezer section without sacrificing taste or satisfaction. The genius lay in the carefully balanced ingredients that created bakery-quality results at home. Enriched flour formed the foundation, combined with wheat flour and malted barley flour for complex flavor and texture. Sugar provided sweetness, while vegetable oils, palm, cottonseed, and soybean created tender crumb. Water activated the yeast that gave these buns their signature lightness. Mono and diglycerides, cocoa processed with alkali dextrose, salt, calcium carbonate, glycerin, and traces of egg, milk, and soy, completed the sophisticated formula. The real magic happened in the characteristic honey-cinnamon combination. Honey appeared both in the dough and the glaze, creating layers of sweetness that never felt overwhelming. Cinnamon sugar was rolled directly into the dough, creating those beautiful swirls that revealed themselves with every bite. The glaze featured powdered sugar, honey, melted butter, vanilla extract, and a pinch of salt, all thinned with warm water or milk to achieve that perfect, pourable consistency. Creating the Morton experience at home required patience and technique. The process began with activating yeast in warm water with sugar, waiting for that telltale foam that signaled life. Flour, honey, melted butter, egg yolks, vanilla, and salt combined with the yeast mixture, beaten until smooth dough formed. After an hour of proofing until doubled, the dough was rolled into rectangles and spread with cinnamon sugar mixture. Rolling the dough lengthwise created long logs that were sliced into 2-inch pieces and placed on baking sheets for a second 30-minute proof. The magic happened during frying, heating 3 to 4 inches of vegetable oil until hot, then carefully frying each bun for about 1.5 to 2 minutes per side until golden brown. Paper towels drained excess oil while the glaze was prepared. The final glory was the glazing ritual. Each warm honey bun was dipped into the thick, pourable white glaze, coating both sides before transferring to cooling racks. The glaze set as it cooled, creating that signature Morton finish. Morton honey buns eventually faded into obscurity by the 1990s, discontinued in the 2000s as the company changed hands multiple times. Stiff competition from other frozen food manufacturers and the rapidly expanding fast food industry made it impossible for Morton to replicate their earlier successes, leaving these beloved frozen pastries as sweet memories of a simpler breakfast era. Cereal with half and half. The rich, ivory cascade of half and half cream poured over cornflakes created an entirely different breakfast experience, one that transformed ordinary cereal into something luxurious and indulgent. This wasn't just milk, this was morning decadence, turning your everyday bowl into a creamy, dreamy experience that made each spoonful feel like a small celebration. The thick richness coated every flake, creating a velvety texture that regular milk simply couldn't match, while preserving that satisfying crunch much longer than thinner dairy ever could. Half and half emerged as a dairy innovation between 1927 and 1956, invented by William A. Boutwell in Florida as the perfect middle ground between milk and cream. This rich mixture, containing between 10.5 and 18% milk fat, was primarily designed for coffee but quickly found its way into cereal bowls across America. The appeal was irresistible, that rich and creamy experience that enhanced cereal's taste while providing luxurious texture that made breakfast feel special. Classic cereals like Corn Flakes and Wheaties became elevated experiences when paired with this golden elixir. The magic wasn't just in taste, it was practical too. Cereal stayed crispy much longer with half and half compared to regular milk, preserving that essential crunch that made morning bowls so satisfying. This density difference meant less soggy disappointment and more textural pleasure with every spoonful. The foundation was beautifully simple, just two ingredients working in perfect harmony. Half and half cream provided the starring role, while any preferred cold cereal played supporting character. Classic choices like Corn Flakes or Wheaties were most common, their simple flavors allowing the dairy richness to shine without competition. Some adventurous families incorporated homemade cereal milk experiences using corn flakes, cold milk, light brown sugar, and kosher salt to steep cereal flavor directly into the dairy. Hot cereals occasionally received the half and half treatment too. Combinations of wild rice, steel-cut oats, barley, and wheat berries enhanced with splashes of this rich cream and sweetened with sugar, honey, or maple syrup. The preparation couldn't have been simpler. Select your classic cereal and pour the desired amount of half and half cream over the cereal in a bowl. The key was mindful moderation. Half and half's richness meant a little went much further than regular milk, preventing the heavy feeling that could result from overindulgence. Optional enhancements included touches of sugar, honey, or maple syrup, though many found the cream's natural richness sufficient. Fresh fruit or nuts occasionally joined the party, adding nutritional benefits and complementary flavors. The serving ritual was immediate. Enjoy that rich, creamy texture and enhanced flavor that half and half provided, savoring each spoonful while the cereal maintained its integrity. This breakfast luxury fell victim to evolving health consciousness and changing dietary trends. As concerns about fat content grew and the sugar backlash gained momentum, health-conscious consumers increasingly sought alternatives to traditional half and half. The rise of dairy-free options like almond milk and oat milk provided similar indulgent experiences without the guilt. More broadly, the overall breakfast cereal market entered decline as people transitioned to more convenient, portable, and perceived healthier alternatives. The indulgence that once made half and half appealing eventually conflicted with cultural preferences for lighter, faster, and nutritionally optimized morning meals. All in one breakfast. The sizzle was pure symphony, bacon fat rendering, bread toasting, and egg whites setting all in one magnificent cast iron skillet. This wasn't just cooking, this was breakfast engineering at its finest, combining multiple morning essentials into a single pan that delivered maximum flavor with minimal cleanup. The aroma was intoxicating: smoky bacon, buttery bread, and that distinctive smell of egg cooking in rendered fat that made your mouth water before you even took the first bite. The all-in-one breakfast represented practical American ingenuity, designed for efficiency without sacrificing satisfaction. While specific historical documentation is limited, this concept reflected the 1970s blend of traditional home cooking with growing appreciation for convenience. Dishes that simplified preparation without sacrificing substance appealed to families seeking hearty meals with minimal fuss, especially during outdoor activities like camping trips or weekend picnics, where one-pan solutions made perfect sense. The beauty lay in perfect simplicity. One egg provided the protein centerpiece, while two slices of bacon delivered smoky richness and essential cooking fat. One slice of bread served as both carbohydrate foundation and edible plate. Some variations suggested using breakfast sausage instead of bacon, or adding shredded cheddar cheese for extra indulgence. The fundamental combination remained consistent: protein, fat, and bread cooked together until everything reached golden perfection. Creating this breakfast masterpiece required timing and technique. Begin by cooking two slices of bacon in a large skillet over medium heat until nearly crisp, but not completely done. The goal was rendering enough fat to cook the remaining ingredients while leaving bacon with slight chew. Just before bacon reached full crispness, separate the slices slightly to create cooking space. The bread placement was crucial. Lay one slice directly over the two bacon slices in the skillet, creating a foundation that would absorb the smoky fat while toasting on the bottom. Using a water glass or cookie cutter, cut a circle from the center of the bread slice, creating a perfect nest for the egg. This technique, sometimes called egg in a hole, ensured even cooking and beautiful presentation. Drop one egg directly into the center hole of the bread, letting the white spread naturally while the yolk remained contained. The magic happened during the sauté process. Several minutes of cooking until the egg began to set and the bread browned on the bottom, absorbing all those incredible bacon flavors. The flip required confidence and a broad spatula. Carefully turn the entire bread, bacon, egg section over to the other side, maintaining the integrity of this breakfast sandwich. Continue cooking for several more minutes on the second side until the egg reached desired doneness and the bread achieved golden brown perfection on both sides. Serve immediately while everything remained hot and the textures stayed distinct. crispy bacon, golden toast, and perfectly cooked egg, creating a harmonious breakfast experience. Despite its clever consolidation approach, the all-in-one breakfast couldn't compete with the ultra-convenient alternatives that emerged as the decade progressed. Pre-packaged, ready-to-eat options like toaster pastries and various cereals offered even greater speed and eliminated any cooking requirement whatsoever. The shift toward breakfast culture that prioritized minimal effort meant that even dishes combining multiple elements were eventually replaced by options that truly eliminated significant morning kitchen activity. Scottish pancakes. The sweet aroma of butter melting in a hot griddle pan mixed with the comforting scent of batter hitting the heat, creating those perfect little golden circles that were about to become something magical.
Because it's pancake day, or like I said, Shrove Tuesday.
Scottish pancakes, also known as drop scones, weren't your typical American stack. These were smaller, thicker, and somehow more satisfying, with a tender crumb that soaked up butter and honey like edible sponges. The smell alone could transport you straight to a cozy kitchen in the Scottish Highlands, even if you were standing in suburban America. Scottish pancakes had deep roots in British culinary traditions, often cooked on a flat girdle, the Scottish term for a griddle. While American pancakes gained traction in the UK during the 1970s to differentiate the thicker, fluffier style from thinner British crepes, Scottish pancakes maintained their distinct identity. In the 1970s, Britain-cooked breakfasts were still expected by many households, particularly for men, making these simple, versatile pancakes a cherished morning comfort. Their nostalgic appeal remained strong for those who grew up during this era, often served with jam, cream, butter, honey, or golden syrup. The magic happened with remarkably simple ingredients. Self-raising flour formed the foundation, though all-purpose flour with baking powder worked equally well. Baking powder provided additional lift, while salt balanced the flavors. Castor sugar added gentle sweetness, and one egg bound everything together. Milk created the proper batter consistency, with some recipes incorporating melted butter for extra richness. The traditional serving experience included granulated sugar for sprinkling and fresh lemon juice for drizzling, creating that distinctive, flat donut taste that made these pancakes unforgettable. Creating perfect Scottish pancakes began with proper dry ingredient preparation. Sift together 1 cup all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon salt into a mixing bowl. Stir in 2 tablespoons sugar, ensuring even distribution throughout the flour mixture. If using self-raising flour, omit the additional baking powder. The wet ingredients required gentle handling. In a separate bowl, whisk together 1 egg, 2/3 cup milk, and 1 tablespoon melted butter if desired. The key was gradual incorporation. Slowly add wet ingredients to dry ingredients, whisking until a smooth, gently flowing batter formed. Avoid overmixing, which could create tough pancakes. The consistency should be thick enough to hold its shape when dropped onto the griddle, but not so thick it wouldn't spread naturally. Cooking required medium-hot temperature control. Lightly oil or butter a griddle pan and heat to medium-hot temperature. Pour or scoop batter onto the griddle in tablespoon-sized portions for traditional drop scones, or larger if preferred. Cook until bubbles formed on the surface and the bottom turned golden brown, approximately 1 to 2 minutes. Flip carefully and cook another minute until cooked through and golden on both sides. The serving ritual was essential to the authentic experience. Remove cooked pancakes to a plate and cover with a tea towel to keep them soft and warm. While still warm, sprinkle generously with granulated sugar and drizzle with fresh lemon juice for the classic preparation. Alternatively, add dollops of jam or butter for variation. Scottish pancakes faded from American breakfast tables as trends moved toward either very quick, convenient options or larger, more elaborate American pancakes. The subtle differences in thickness and preparation couldn't carve out a unique niche in the American breakfast market, while the general decline of daily home-cooked breakfasts meant even simple traditional pancake varieties faced reduced everyday consumption. Grilled breakfast sandwiches. The butter sizzled and popped as it hit the hot skillet, followed by that unmistakable sound of bread making contact with melted fat. A gentle hiss that promised golden, crispy perfection. The aroma was intoxicating. Smoky bacon mingling with scrambled eggs, sharp cheddar melting into creamy submission, all encased between slices of bread that were transforming into buttery, crunchy armor. This was breakfast engineering at its finest, turning simple ingredients into a handheld morning masterpiece that satisfied every craving in one perfect package. Grilled breakfast sandwiches emerged during the 1970s as homemade alternatives to the nascent fast food breakfast revolution. While McDonald's was just beginning to introduce breakfast items like the Egg McMuffin in the mid-1970s, creative home cooks were already crafting their own versions using familiar ingredients and trusted techniques. These sandwiches offered customizable satisfaction and hearty practicality, perfectly suited for families who wanted something more substantial than cereal, but more convenient than a full-plate breakfast. The foundation required just a few quality components working in perfect harmony. Fresh eggs provided the protein centerpiece, typically scrambled for easy distribution and creamy texture. Bacon or ham delivered that essential smoky, salty element that made breakfast feel complete. Cheese, whether Swiss, cheddar, or American, added richness and helped bind everything together during the grilling process. The bread could vary from standard sliced bread to English muffins, depending on preference and availability. Optional additions included fried tomato slices or avocado for freshness, though the core trio remained sacred. Creating the perfect grilled breakfast sandwich began with proper filling preparation. Cook bacon or ham until desired crispness, setting aside on paper towels. If using eggs, scramble them separately until just set but still creamy. They'd continue cooking during the grilling process. Grate or slice cheese for even melting distribution. The assembly was crucial for structural integrity. In a bowl, combine the cooked bacon or ham with scrambled eggs and shredded or diced cheese, mixing until well combined. This technique ensured even distribution and prevented ingredients from sliding out during eating. Sandwich construction required strategic thinking. Take 2 slices of bread and spread butter or mayonnaise on the outer sides. These would become the golden, crispy exterior during grilling. Place a generous portion of the filling mixture between the unbuttered sides, creating a well-packed but not overstuffed sandwich. The grilling process transformed ordinary ingredients into breakfast magic. Heat a skillet or frying pan over medium heat. Place the assembled sandwich in the hot pan, pressing gently with a spatula to ensure even contact. Grill until the bread achieved golden brown crispiness and the cheese melted into gooey perfection, approximately 3 to 4 minutes per side. Flip carefully to ensure even browning on both sides. Serve immediately while the cheese remained molten and the bread stayed crispy. The contrast of textures, crunchy exterior, creamy interior, made every bite a celebration of breakfast comfort. Despite their homemade charm and customization possibilities, grilled breakfast sandwiches couldn't compete with the overwhelming convenience of fast food alternatives that emerged in the late 1970s and 1980s. Commercial offerings like the Egg McMuffin provided unparalleled speed and consistency, making the effort of preparing sandwiches at home seem unnecessary for busy mornings. The general shift toward convenience culture meant even relatively simple homemade options lost their appeal when truly effortless alternatives became widely available. Space food sticks. The sweet, chalky aroma filled the air as you unwrapped that slender rod of compressed nutrition, knowing you were about to bite into the same food that astronauts ate among the stars. Space food sticks weren't just snacks. They were edible pieces of the space race, bringing NASA's cutting-edge nutrition technology directly to American breakfast tables. Each bite delivered dense, concentrated energy with flavors like chocolate, caramel, and peanut butter that made you feel like you were fueling up for your own mission to the moon. Developed by Pillsbury under the leadership of Chief Food Technologist Howard Bauman, these revolutionary energy bars emerged directly from the Apollo space program. Originally created as high-energy, non-crumbly food for American astronauts, they were specifically designed to fit through the small, airtight openings in space helmets. Astronaut Scott Carpenter had eaten similar compressed food cubes in space as early as 1962, proving the concept worked in zero gravity. When Pillsbury brought them to the public market, they marketed these rod-shaped bars as nutritionally balanced between meal snacks or miniature meals, directly linking them to NASA's efforts to create safe, healthy space food. The genius lay in their carefully engineered nutritional balance. Each 44-calorie stick contained carbohydrates, fat, and protein in precise ratios designed for sustained energy. The ingredient list revealed the complexity behind their simple appearance: vegetable shortening powder, vegetable fat, glucose powder, soy protein, milk protein, mineral salt, emulsifiers, glucose with wheat sulfites, sugar, humectant glycerin, thickener, color, salt, milk, soy, and wheat. Various flavors were achieved through additives: chocolate, caramel, peanut butter, chocolate malt, chocolate mint, and orange, creating options that appealed to different tastes while maintaining nutritional consistency. The original manufacturing process was too complex for home recreation, requiring specialized equipment and precisely engineered ratios designed for space travel. However, the concept of a balanced energy snack in rod form could be approximated using modern energy bar techniques. The key was achieving that distinctive, dense, slightly chewy texture that made space food sticks so satisfying. Pillsbury's marketing brilliance made these bars the coolest snack of the era, perfect for after-school consumption or on-the-go energy. They came individually wrapped in packages containing typically 14 sticks per box, making them convenient for lunchboxes and backpacks. The space connection wasn't just marketing gimmick. Astronauts on Skylab 3 actually ate modified versions in 1972 to 1973 to test their gastrointestinal compatibility in extended space missions. The experience was uniquely satisfying. Each stick provided concentrated nutrition in a form that traveled well and satisfied hunger without the mess of traditional snacks. The flavors were intense but not overwhelming, delivering enough sweetness to feel like a treat while providing genuine nutritional value that kept energy levels stable. Space food sticks disappeared from North American supermarket shelves by the 1980s, victims of their own rebranding strategy. In 1971, Pillsbury made the fatal decision to drop space from the product name, rebranding them simply as Food Sticks. This change reportedly stemmed from perception that the space food image had become negative in some consumers' minds. However, the space connection was precisely what made them unique and appealing. Without this exotic branding, the product lost its novelty and distinctiveness in an increasingly competitive snack market, while waning public excitement about the space program after the Apollo era contributed to their eventual demise. Buckwheat's cereal. The sweet maple syrup aroma that wafted from your breakfast bowl could transport you straight to a Vermont sugar house on a crisp Saturday morning. Buckwheat's wasn't just cereal. It was pancakes in a bowl, delivering that distinctive maple-flavored glaze that gave every spoonful a pancake on a Saturday morning vibe that made weekday breakfasts feel special. The light, airy texture of the wheat flakes contrasted beautifully with that sweet coating, creating a breakfast experience that tasted like weekend comfort but worked perfectly for rushed school mornings. General Mills introduced buckwheats in 1971 as their answer to the increasingly sugary cereal landscape, combining nutritional responsibility with irresistible flavor. The cereal featured toasted wheat flakes, originally made with buckwheat, coated in a distinctive sweet maple-flavored glaze that set it apart from everything else on grocery store shelves. Despite appearing similar to brand flakes, buckwheats was remarkably lighter in weight, making each bowl feel substantial without being heavy. The 1970s cereal boxes proudly claimed the product contained 100% of minimum daily requirements for vitamins and iron, positioning it as both delicious and nutritious. The magic happened in that signature maple coating. While specific ingredient lists weren't publicly available, the cereal primarily consisted of toasted wheat flakes with buckwheat as a key component. The defining characteristic was the sweet maple-flavored glaze baked directly onto the flakes, creating layers of flavor that developed with each bite. Later, General Mills made the fatal decision to replace this beloved maple glaze with honey-flavored coating, fundamentally altering the taste profile that had made buckwheats special. The cereal was also fortified with essential vitamins and iron, making it a relatively healthy choice in an era of increasingly sugary breakfast options. Recreating buckwheats at home required approximating that distinctive maple-flavored coating. Start with plain, unsweetened wheat flakes, or bran flakes as the foundation. In a saucepan, gently heat maple syrup with a small amount of butter and a pinch of salt, creating a coating mixture that would adhere properly to the cereal. For richer flavor, add a touch of brown sugar to intensify the maple experience. The coating process demanded careful attention. Spread the chosen wheat flakes in a single layer on a baking sheet, ensuring even distribution. Drizzle the warm maple mixture evenly over the flakes, tossing gently to ensure complete coverage without crushing the delicate wheat pieces. Baking transformed the mixture into cereal magic. Place in a low oven around 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 to 15 minutes, stirring occasionally to prevent burning and ensure even crisping. The goal was absorbing the coating while maintaining crunch and achieving light toasting that enhanced the overall flavor profile. Allow cooling completely before serving. The final result delivered maple-flavored breakfast satisfaction with milk, though many enjoyed it as a dry snack or enhanced with fresh fruit for added nutritional value. Buckwheats met its demise around 1983 primarily due to General Mills' recipe modification disaster. When the company replaced the original maple glaze with honey-flavored coating, consumers felt the new version tasted like a sweet and sticky bowl of Wheaties rather than the distinctive buckwheats they loved. Sales subsequently plummeted, leading to discontinuation. This illustrated how even seemingly minor alterations to core flavor profiles could significantly impact consumer loyalty and product viability, proving that some breakfast classics shouldn't be tampered with once they achieved perfection. Sir Grapefellow Cereal. The vibrant purple hue swirling through your milk bowl announced that breakfast was about to become an adventure. Sir Grapefellow wasn't just cereal, it was edible rebellion, bringing bold grape flavor to morning tables, where it had no business being, yet somehow belonged perfectly. The aroma hit you first, that unmistakable artificial grape scent that reminded you of summer popsicles in candy stores, followed by the satisfying crunch of oat pieces that held their shape in milk far longer than expected. General Mills introduced Sir Grapefellow in 1972 as part of an innovative marketing campaign featuring two rival World War I pilot mascots engaged in good-natured aerial combat over cereal superiority. Sir Grapefellow's distinctiveness lay in its audacious purple color and grape flavor, a bold choice that defied breakfast conventions. The cereal consisted of grape-flavored oat pieces, accompanied by sweetberry or grape-shaped marshmallows called Starbits, creating a bowl that looked like liquid amethyst when milk was added. This intensely sugary creation embodied the experimental spirit of 1970s breakfast options. The foundation was simple yet revolutionary for its time. Grape-flavored oat cereal provided the base, delivering that distinctive taste that frequently drew comparisons to classic grape jelly. Sweetberry or grape-shaped marshmallows added textural interest and visual appeal, scattered throughout like tiny purple gems. As with many cereals of the era, sugar played a starring role, while artificial flavoring created that unmistakable grape taste that either delighted or horrified unsuspecting breakfast eaters. Recreating Sir Grapefellow's unique flavor profile presented challenges for home cooks, but the concept could be approximated with creativity. Start with plain oat-based cereal pieces like Cheerios or lightly sweetened corn-based cereal as the foundation. Small, colorful marshmallows, particularly purple ones if available, mimicked the original Starbits that made each spoonful an adventure. The trickiest element was achieving that distinctive grape flavor and color. A few sprinkles of grape-flavored Kool-Aid powder could be added to dry cereal and shaken to distribute flavor and color, though this approach would be intensely strong and citric acidy. Alternatively, a very light mist of grape extract diluted in water could be attempted, followed by thorough drying to prevent sogginess. The final assembly was straightforward. Pour the prepared cereal into a bowl and add milk, which would likely turn an entertaining shade of purple as the artificial coloring dissolved. The experience was as much visual as gustatory, watching ordinary milk transform into something that looked like it belonged in a science experiment rather than a breakfast bowl. Sir Grapefellow's market life proved remarkably brief. Along with its rival Baron von Redberry, the cereal was discontinued by General Mills in 1975, just 3 years after introduction. The world simply wasn't ready for grape-flavored morning crunchies, as one food historian noted. While the cereal aisle was never quite the same without this flavor feud, the unpopularity of grape flavor for breakfast likely contributed significantly to its rapid disappearance. This illustrated how even innovative marketing and unique flavors couldn't guarantee long-term success in the highly competitive and rapidly evolving breakfast cereal market of the 1970s. Baron von Redberry Cereal. The tangy punch of berry flavor burst across your taste buds as crimson-colored milk swirled around raspberry-flavored oat pieces, creating a breakfast experience that felt more like dessert than morning nutrition. Baron von Redberry wasn't just cereal. It was the fruity rival that brought aerial warfare to breakfast tables across America. The aroma was pure childhood joy, artificial berry sweetness mixed with that distinctive oat crunch that somehow made 8 a.m. feel like a celebration. General Mills introduced Baron von Redberry in 1972 as the Red Baron's long-lost cousin, creating good-natured rivalry with Sir Grapefellow through aeronautical marketing gimmicks. This cereal brought a tangy punch of berry-flavored goodness to breakfast tables, featuring raspberry-flavored oat cereal with raspberry marshmallows called Starbits. Both cereals were notorious for being full of sugar, exemplifying the 1970s trend of highly flavored, artificially colored, and heavily sweetened novelty cereals designed to appeal directly to children through bold flavors and imaginative marketing campaigns. The foundation was elegantly simple, yet revolutionary for morning meals. Raspberry-flavored oat cereal provided the base, delivering intense berry taste that made ordinary breakfast feel extraordinary. Raspberry-flavored marshmallows scattered throughout added textural variety and visual appeal, creating surprises in every spoonful. The cereal was heavily sweetened and relied on artificial flavorings to deliver its signature, tangy punch of berry-flavored goodness that set it apart from more traditional breakfast options. Recreating Baron von Redberry's distinctive flavor required creative approximation. Begin with plain oat-based cereal pieces like Cheerios or lightly sweetened corn-based cereal as the foundation. Small, colorful marshmallows, specifically red or pink ones if available, mimicked the original Star Bits that made each bowl an adventure in texture and flavor. The berry flavoring presented the biggest challenge. A few sprinkles of raspberry-flavored Kool-Aid powder could be added to dry cereal and shaken to distribute the flavor and achieve that distinctive berry taste. Alternatively, a very light mist of berry extract diluted in water could be attempted, followed by thorough drying to maintain cereal crispness. Assembly was straightforward but visually dramatic. Pour the prepared cereal into a bowl and add milk, watching as the artificial coloring transformed ordinary white milk into something resembling a berry smoothie. The visual transformation was part of the appeal. Breakfast became entertainment as much as nutrition. Baron von Redberry met the same fate as its grape-flavored rival. General Mills discontinued both cereals in 1975, just a few years after their launch. Despite the sweet raspberry zing and memorable marketing featuring aerial combat between cereal mascots, the cereal failed to achieve long-term success. Its short market lifespan reflected the intense competition within the breakfast cereal industry of the 1970s, where many novelty and highly sugared products struggled to maintain consumer interest amid a constant stream of new introductions and evolving preferences. The berry flavor, while bold, couldn't sustain the momentum needed for lasting success in an increasingly crowded marketplace. Crazy Cow cereal. The magic happened the moment milk hit those innocent-looking round pellets, watching ordinary white milk transform into chocolate or strawberry heaven right before your eyes. Crazy Cow wasn't just breakfast. It was edible wizardry that turned your morning bowl into a milkshake-like experience that made you forget you were eating cereal at all. The aroma shifted from neutral grain to rich chocolate or sweet strawberry as the powdered coating dissolved, creating a breakfast that felt more like a science experiment than nutrition. General Mills created Crazy Cow during the 1970s as the ultimate novelty breakfast experience, featuring round multi-grain pellets coated with powdered drink mix that transformed milk into flavored liquid magic. This milk-altering magic potion became a significant draw for children, promising fun and indulgence that made ordinary breakfast feel extraordinary. The cereal came in two primary flavors, chocolate and strawberry, with boxes often carrying disclaimers that flavors were artificially flavored, acknowledging the complete absence of actual chocolate or strawberries in the ingredients. The genius lay in the coating technology. Multi-grain pellets provided the cereal foundation, but the defining characteristic was the powdered coating, described as an excipient of a drink mix that dissolved when milk was added. The coating infused milk with either chocolate or strawberry flavor, creating a beverage experience that resembled flavored milk in sight, smell, and taste. This interactive element made breakfast entertainment as much as sustenance, appealing to children who delighted in watching their milk change colors and flavors. Recreating Crazy Cow's milk-transforming concept required ingenuity with available ingredients. Start with plain, unsweetened, or lightly sweetened multigrain cereal as the base. O-shaped cereal or corn puffs worked well for approximating the original texture and shape. The coating process demanded careful technique. For chocolate flavor, finely grind unsweetened cocoa powder with a small amount of powdered sugar to create the flavoring mixture. For strawberry, use freeze-dried strawberry powder mixed with tiny amounts of powdered sugar for sweetness and color enhancement. Application required gentle handling. Lightly mist the cereal with a very small amount of water or neutral oil to help the powder adhere without making cereal soggy. Toss the cereal with the prepared flavor coating until evenly distributed, ensuring complete coverage without clumping. Drying preserved the coating's effectiveness. Spread coated cereal on a baking sheet and allow complete air drying, or bake in a very low oven, around 150 degrees Fahrenheit for a short period until dry and crisp, ensuring the coating remained intact without further cooking the cereal. The final experience delivered the promised milk transformation. Add coated cereal to a bowl and pour milk over it, stirring to dissolve the coating and flavor the milk while maintaining cereal integrity. Crazy Cow went MIA by the early 80s, falling victim to growing health consciousness that emerged in the late 1970s and early 1980s. As consumers moved away from heavily sugared cereals and artificial ingredients, products like Crazy Cow lost appeal. The novelty aspect that initially attracted children couldn't sustain long-term interest in a rapidly changing food landscape that increasingly prioritized health over entertainment value. Freakies Cereal. The catchy jingle echoed through Saturday morning cartoons as colorful, oddball monster mascots danced around their magical Freakies tree, promising breakfast adventures that turned ordinary mornings into cartoon come to life. Freakies wasn't just cereal. It was an entire universe packed into a box, complete with collectible refrigerator magnets, plastic figurines, and toy cars that made the relatively plain yellow rings secondary to the entertainment value. The aroma was simple sweetened corn, but the experience was pure childhood magic. Ralston launched Freakies in 1972 as a corn-based cereal that became a hit among children, primarily due to its memorable marketing campaign featuring a gang of colorful monster mascots living in the mystical Freakies tree. While the cereal itself was described as relatively plain, consisting of small yellow sweetened rings made from corn, wheat, and oats, its appeal was heavily tied to the characters and collectible premiums. The focus on mascots and toys was a common strategy in the 1970s cereal market, designed to capture children's attention and loyalty through entertainment value rather than flavor innovation. The foundation was elegantly simple, perhaps disappointingly so. Freakies consisted of small yellow rings made from a mix of corn, wheat, and oats, creating a sweetened corn-based cereal that provided basic breakfast nutrition. While the original version was plain, fruit-flavored and chocolate-flavored variations were later introduced to expand appeal. The primary draw wasn't the inherent flavor, but the association with colorful mascots and the magic trick toys often included in boxes, making breakfast as much about play as nutrition. Recreating Freakies focused on achieving that lightly sweetened corn-based ring cereal experience. Start with simple, unsweetened corn-based ring cereal or generic sweetened corn puff cereal as the foundation. The goal was capturing that basic, familiar corn flavor that served as a neutral canvas for milk and any additional enhancements. For light sweetening enhancement, a gentle dusting of powdered sugar could be added to unsweetened cereal, or the cereal could be very lightly misted with sugar syrup and then dried to achieve subtle sweetness without overwhelming the corn base. Optional flavor variations could replicate later Freakies versions. For fruity Freakies, a very small amount of fruit flavor powder from powdered drink mixes could be tossed with cereal, used sparingly to avoid overpowering the base. For cocoa Freakies, a light dusting of cocoa powder and powdered sugar could be applied using the same gentle coating technique. The authentic Freakies experience would ideally include a fun, collectible toy to complete the nostalgia factor, since the cereal's appeal was as much about entertainment as taste. Freakies didn't survive beyond the 1970s, being discontinued by 1976. Despite its memorable marketing campaign, catchy jingle, and popular mascot squad, the plain taste wasn't distinctive enough to sustain long-term appeal. While a comeback was attempted in the 1980s, the cereal world had moved on. This exemplified how competitive and trend-driven the 1970s cereal market was. Strong marketing gimmicks could only carry a product so far if the core food product lacked a compelling or unique flavor profile that resonated with consumers beyond initial novelty. Crunchy Log Cereal. The earthy aroma of maple-flavored cereal filled the kitchen as Loggins the beaver mascot promised another tree bark-inspired breakfast that somehow made eating wood sound appealing. Crunchy Logs wasn't just cereal, it was wilderness adventure in a bowl, delivering that distinctive maple taste that evoked pancake on a Saturday morning vibes, similar to its cousin buckwheats. The crunch was satisfying, the maple coating genuine, and the novelty factor of eating something designed to resemble tree bark added just enough whimsy to make mornings feel special. This 1970s breakfast creation emerged during the decade's experimental phase of cereal manufacturing, when companies pushed boundaries with unusual themes and flavor profiles. Crunchy Logs aimed to make tree bark-inspired breakfast appealing through clever marketing featuring Loggins the beaver mascot, who somehow made the concept of eating wood-themed food seem perfectly reasonable. The maple flavor gave it credibility, connecting the forest theme with genuine breakfast taste that resonated with families seeking both novelty and familiar comfort. The foundation was elegantly simple, yet distinctively flavored. Crunchy Logs featured maple-flavored cereal as its primary component, though specific detailed ingredient lists weren't readily available from the era. The cereal would have been grain-based, likely corn or wheat, common foundations for sweetened cereals, coated with maple flavoring and sugar to achieve that signature taste. The trend of artificial flavors and sweeteners was standard for the time period, making maple coating both feasible and appealing to target demographics. Recreating crunchy logs required approximating that distinctive maple-flavored, textured cereal experience. Begin with plain, unsweetened puffed grain cereal, like puffed wheat or rice, or use simple cornflake base as the foundation for coating. The maple coating process was crucial for authenticity. In a saucepan, gently heat maple syrup with a small amount of butter and a pinch of salt, creating a coating mixture that would adhere properly to the cereal base. For richer flavor complexity, add a touch of brown sugar to intensify the maple experience and create more sophisticated taste layers. Application required careful technique. Spread chosen cereal on a baking sheet in a single layer, ensuring even distribution for consistent coating. Drizzle the warm maple mixture evenly over cereal, tossing gently to ensure complete coverage without crushing delicate grain pieces. The transformation happened during baking. Place coated cereal in a low oven around 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 to 15 minutes, stirring occasionally to prevent burning and ensure even crisping. The goal was absorbing the maple coating while maintaining satisfying crunch and achieving light toasting that enhanced overall flavor development. Allow complete cooling before serving. Serve with milk as traditional cereal, as a dry snack, or enhanced with fresh fruit for added nutrition and complementary flavors. Crunchy logs ultimately failed to chomp down on long-term success, disappearing from store shelves as quickly as it had arrived. Its demise reflected the intense competition and rapid turnover characteristic of the 1970s breakfast cereal industry, where many novelty cereals struggled to maintain consumer interest against constant streams of new products and evolving taste preferences. The tree bark-inspired theme, while quirky, may not have had broad enough appeal to sustain long-term market presence. Grins and smiles and giggles and laughs. Cereal. The robotic whirring sound of Cecil the mascot laughing cereal out of his machine promised a breakfast experience as unusual as the cereal's exceptionally long name. Grins and smiles and giggles and laughs wasn't just cereal. It was happiness shaped into tiny smiley faces, crunching between your teeth with sweetened corn and oat goodness that made mornings feel like cartoon come to life. The aroma was familiar sweetened grain, but the visual of those tiny smiling faces floating in milk created an experience that felt more like eating joy than nutrition. Kellogg's introduced this uniquely named cereal, featuring a robotic mascot named Cecile, whose role was to laugh the cereal out of a special machine in television commercials. The cereal consisted of sweetened, crunchy, smiley face-shaped pieces made from corn and oats, released between 1975 and 1976 by Ralston before being acquired by General Mills. The concept of using cartoon mascots and interactive gimmicks represented a strong trend in 1970s cereal advertising, designed to directly engage children through entertainment value as much as taste. The foundation was a lightly sweetened corn and oat combo, formed into distinctive smiley face shapes that made each spoonful a tiny celebration. The primary appeal wasn't necessarily distinctive flavor, but the novelty of the mascot and the fun gimmick, rather than breakthrough taste innovation. Like many cereals of the era, sugar provided sweetness, while the corn and oat combination delivered basic breakfast nutrition in an entertaining format. Recreating this concept focused on achieving sweetened, shaped grain pieces that captured the original's playful spirit. Start with simple, lightly sweetened corn and oat cereal base, which could involve combining corn puffs and oat rings if starting from scratch. For authentic recreation, custom smiley face shapes would require specialized equipment unavailable to home cooks. However, using existing shaped cereals like small O-shaped or star-shaped cereals could approximate the fun factor while maintaining the essential sweetened grain experience. Light sweetening was crucial for authenticity. Ensure cereal base was appropriately sweetened through dusting with powdered sugar or applying very light glaze if starting with unsweetened grains. The goal was achieving that familiar, lightly sweet taste that appealed to children without overwhelming the corn and oat foundation. The gimmick aspect proved difficult to replicate at home since it was central to the cereal's commercial appeal and television marketing campaign. Despite its fun gimmick, Grins and Smiles and Giggles and Laughs cereal wasn't distinctive enough in flavor to maintain consumer interest, and it quietly vanished from store shelves. Its short market presence typified many novelty cereals from the 1970s that relied heavily on marketing rather than truly unique or beloved taste. In a decade saturated with new and often sugary cereal options, lack of strong flavor differentiation meant products could quickly be forgotten amid the constant churn of market introductions and evolving consumer preferences. Pink Panther Flakes Cereal. The unmistakable pink cascade of milk swirling around sugary, bubblegum-colored cornflakes announced that breakfast had officially entered cartoon territory. Pink Panther Flakes wasn't just cereal. It was edible entertainment that put a rosy twist on traditional cornflakes through sheer audacity of color. The aroma was classic cornflakes sweetness enhanced by that distinctive bubblegum scent that made your kitchen smell like a candy store, while the visual spectacle of pink milk created breakfast theater that captivated children and horrified parents in equal measure. Post launched Pink Panther Flakes in 1972 as a direct tie-in to the popular Pink Panther cartoon, capitalizing on character recognition to drive cereal sales. This marketing strategy was common in the 1970s, when cereal companies leveraged popular cartoon characters and bright colors to capture children's attention in an increasingly competitive breakfast market. The visual appeal of pink flakes that also turned milk pink served as the key selling point, designed to attract young consumers who valued entertainment as much as nutrition. The foundation was elegantly simple, yet visually revolutionary. Pink Panther Flakes were essentially cornflakes, enhanced with pink coloring, featuring a sugary, bubblegum pink coating that transformed ordinary breakfast into something extraordinary. Like many cereals of the era, sugar played a primary role in both taste and appeal, contributing to the overall sweetness that made these flakes irresistible to children, while creating that signature pink milk effect that became the cereal's calling card. Recreating Pink Panther Flakes required achieving that distinctive colored and sweetened cornflake experience. Start with plain, unsweetened cornflakes as the foundation, providing the familiar texture and neutral flavor base that would showcase the pink enhancement. The sweetened color coating was crucial for authenticity. In a small bowl, combine powdered sugar with a tiny amount of pink food coloring, either liquid or gel, to create the signature coating mixture. For subtle bubblegum flavor enhancement, add a very small drop of food-grade bubblegum flavoring, though this should be used extremely sparingly to avoid overwhelming the corn base. Application required gentle technique to avoid crushing delicate cornflakes. Lightly mist the cornflakes with minimal water or neutral oil to help the sugar mixture adhere properly. Toss cornflakes carefully with the pink sugar mixture until evenly coated, ensuring complete coverage while maintaining flake integrity. Drying preserved the coating effectiveness. Spread coated cereal on a baking sheet and allow complete air drying, or bake in very low oven around 150 degrees Fahrenheit for a short period until dry and crisp, maintaining that essential crunch. The final experience delivered the promised pink milk effect when served with regular milk. Pink Panther Flakes disappeared faster than the Pink Panther's elusive diamond from store shelves. While undeniably eye-catching, the flavor was reportedly not quite as iconic as its animated counterpart. Despite strong visual appeal and popular intellectual property tie-in, the cereal's taste failed to resonate sufficiently with consumers for long-term success, quickly fading from stores when novelty wore off. Cream chipped beef on toast. The rich, creamy aroma of white sauce bubbled in the skillet, mingling with the salty essence of rehydrated beef to create a breakfast that military veterans knew by its infamous nickname, SOS. Cream-chipped beef on toast wasn't just food, it was comfort disguised as necessity, transforming dried beef into something warm, filling, and surprisingly satisfying. The smell was pure nostalgia, buttery roux developing into velvety sauce that would soon blanket crispy toast with hearty sustenance. This dish emerged from frugality and military tradition, where dried beef served as shelf-stable protein for pioneers and soldiers since the 19th century. World War I and II made it a mess hall staple due to reasonable nutrition, easy large-scale preparation, and low cost. Veterans brought the taste home, where it peaked as family comfort food from the 1950s through 1970s. Essential ingredients included dried beef, preferably Budig brand for lower salt content, butter, all-purpose flour, and milk. Seasonings remained simple: freshly ground black pepper with optional cayenne, garlic powder, or Worcestershire sauce. Texas toast provided the traditional foundation. Preparation began by soaking salty dried beef in hot water for 3 to 5 minutes if needed, then slicing into bite-sized pieces. Create a roux by melting 4 tablespoons butter in a large skillet, stirring in 1/3 cup flour for 2 to 3 minutes. Slowly whisk in 3 cups whole milk until smooth and thickened. Add beef strips, season with black pepper and salt, simmering until heated through. Serve generously over toasted bread. Despite its comfort food heritage, cream-chipped beef declined as evolving palates shifted toward culinary novelties, and health consciousness reduced appeal for high-fat, high-salt preparations. Corn cakes with poached eggs. The golden aroma of masa harina sizzling in hot oil filled the kitchen as crispy corn cakes developed their perfect bronze crust, ready to cradle silky poached eggs that would soon break into creamy rivers across the textured surface. This wasn't just breakfast. It was edible architecture, creating substantial platforms for runny yolks that transformed simple ingredients into impressive morning satisfaction. Corn cakes trace their roots to indigenous American cuisine, evolving from simple cornmeal and water patties into refined breakfast fare by the 1970s. These hearty foundations offered substantial, comforting starts to busy days, especially appealing on weekends when cooked meals still mattered. Key ingredients included masa harina corn flour, whole milk, unsalted butter, salt, and sugar for the cakes. Poached eggs required large, fresh eggs and white vinegar. Optional accompaniments featured salsa, made with tomatoes, onion, jalapeno, cilantro, plus crumbled queso fresco and chopped avocado. Preparation began by warming milk and butter, then mixing with masa harina, salt, sugar, and cheese to form soft dough. Shape into discs, then fry in olive oil until crispy and golden. Meanwhile, poach eggs in simmering vinegar water until whites set but yolks remain soft. Serve corn cakes topped with poached eggs, salsa cheese, and avocado. This impressive breakfast declined as convenience culture prioritized speed over elaborate home cooking, making multi-step dishes less feasible for busy weekday mornings despite their satisfying nature. Fried bread, American style. The intoxicating aroma of dough hitting hot oil filled every corner of the kitchen, that distinctive sizzle and bubble that promised golden, crispy perfection with a tender, pillowy interior. Fried bread wasn't just breakfast, it was edible resourcefulness, transforming basic pantry staples into something that could be served plain with eggs and hot sauce or sweetened with cinnamon sugar for a rustic donut experience. The smell was pure comfort, yeast and flour meeting hot fat to create breakfast magic from almost nothing. In the American context, fried bread often referred to simple preparations of bread, shallow fried in fat, but more prominently evoked fry bread, a dish with complex indigenous American history. Fry bread originated in 1864 when the U.S. government provided flour, sugar, salt, and lard to displaced Navajo people during the Long Walk to prevent starvation. From these meager rations, indigenous women created fry bread, which spread to other tribes through boarding schools, becoming both symbol of perseverance and trauma of colonialism. Essential ingredients included all-purpose flour, baking powder, salt, and warm water. Some variations added shortening, sugar, yeast, powdered milk, or eggs. Peanut, safflower, or vegetable oil provided frying medium. Preparation began by combining 3 cups flour, 1½ teaspoons baking powder, and ½ teaspoon salt. Slowly drizzle 1½ cups warm water while tossing with fork until evenly distributed. Form into 4-inch discs, then fry in 1/4-inch hot oil until golden brown on both sides. Fried bread declined due to growing health consciousness about high-fat foods and cultural movements within indigenous communities toward traditional foods, reducing daily consumption of this complex cultural symbol. Outro. These 20 forgotten breakfast treasures tell the story of a nation in transition, caught between the comfort of home-cooked tradition and the irresistible pull of convenience culture. From the sizzling cast-iron pans of Hamburger Hash to the space-age novelty of astronaut food sticks, each dish represents a moment when American families still gathered around breakfast tables that mattered. The 1970s marked the end of an era, when cereals turned milk purple, when honey buns emerged golden from ovens, and when deviled eggs counted as legitimate morning protein. These weren't just meals, they were memories waiting to happen. Aromas that could transport you back to Saturday mornings when time moved slower, and breakfast meant something more than grabbing energy bars on the run. Today's grab-and-go culture may have won the convenience war, but it lost something precious in the process. The simple joy of watching bacon sizzle, milk change colors, and families connect over food that took time to make and love to share. These forgotten breakfasts remind us that sometimes the best things in life are worth the extra effort.